abortion, unions, and climate change. Stay tuned. Jimmy at the Crossroads, episode 85, coming your way.
And that, my friends, is how America was made great once again. Breaking at this hour, Jimmy Sengenberger is currently at the crossroads of politics and economics. Radio broadcaster master, now the celeb on the web. He's the smarty of the party. He's in cahoots with the grassroots. Jimmy at the Crossroads brings you thought-provoking commentary, hard-hitting interviews, original satire, and the best bumper music known to man. Jimmy at the Crossroads!
Gonna talk money, gonna talk politics, great for all generations. Oh, what a great mix, I said. Gonna talk money, gonna talk politics, great for all generations. Oh, what a great mix. I got Jimmy at the Crossroads, making sense out of nonsense. People want answers, they want to understand. They come to the crossroads and Jimmy gives them the plan. I said, gonna talk money, gonna talk politics, great for all generations. Oh, what a great mix. I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of nonsense. Come on, Jimmy, what you got? Policy and markets, elections, current events. The broadcast master tells us how to win. I said, policy and markets, elections and current events. The broadcast master shows us how to win. I got Jimmy at the Crossroads, making sense out of nonsense.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another edition of Jimmy at the Crossroads. I'm Jimmy Sengenberger, your host for the program. Once again, bringing you engaging, intelligent talk, saying style, here in partnership with the Washington Examiner. And we're also indeed, as the great Biff Gore sings, and there is a lot of nonsense out there to be making sense out of here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. Great to be with you on a Washington Examiner Wednesday. In a little bit, we will be joined by Josh Siegel, reporter at the Examiner, to talk about Biden, unions, and climate change. But first, on Monday, we focused on riots that essentially broke out. There was a rally. On Sunday, there was a rally to support the police in Denver, the capital city of my state of Colorado. This was the 6th annual Law Enforcement Appreciation Day pro-police rally. 6th annual event. And as we focused on Monday's show with a series of guests who, like me, were on the ground there at this event, we discussed and displayed for you the extent to which violence had broken out when Antifa and Black Lives Matter extremists disrupted this peaceful gathering at Civic Center Park in downtown Denver, just steps from the Colorado state capitol. And the police did nothing. Here in Cut 1 is how it all broke down in the beginning.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is all they can do. They cannot let you speak. I'm so thankful that you guys came out in the midst of all this foolishness. And now I want to invite up the founder of Pro Police Rally Colorado. We give thanks to God.
Those are not police sirens, by the way.
Are you here? I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out today. We do have a First Amendment right. We are allowed to say what we want to say in this country. So say what you have to say. But we will start this thing off in a moment of prayer. And John Rosie have an invocation for dear Lord. Please, and thank you so much for the day on which we are. Please watch over everybody here today, our men and women in law enforcement, our men and women who are here to support our men and women in law enforcement, and the people that right now don't seem to have much of a conversation.
That is footage that I took on Sunday being on stage. I was set to play with the band I had for one tune, although I could already, by the beginning of the song, hardly hear myself on the harmonica. Then they stormed in from all sides. It was a massive swarm upon Civic Center Park in downtown Denver, Colorado. And after that happened, after the swarm, nothing could be done. Nothing could be said. No music could even be played. Take a look, one example of some of the chaos here in Cut 3 as things started to get violent, and it didn't take very long. When that woman knocked into the microphone, she also knocked down an iPad, the iPad for the band, breaking equipment. That was, so we had one song. Then we had Randy Corcoran get up there and he gave a welcome. And then he introduced Ron McLaughlin, the lead organizer of the rally, who led in a very brief invocation, although you could hardly hear what he said. And then the band started playing. And there was a point at which after we started playing, I mean, I probably after like 15 seconds, I was like, I can't hear myself play harmonica with the band. So I'm going to stop this now, pick up my camera and film a little bit. And that's the footage that you just saw. And then we had to stop altogether. That was it. That was the rally. That was what they allowed to happen. These thugs that intervened, that disrupted, and that began to become very violent. You just saw Ron McLaughlin. Well, in Cut 4, Ron was hit by a thug with a longboard right across his forehead, and this was him trying to get some help. I caught this footage on Sunday.
I don't want to leave here alone, though. We're going now. All right. Give me just one moment. Yeah.
And I think we have the
This is
picture
the
as
kind
well.
of people
Nathan
we've got
Matusz, if you
here.
can pull up the picture of
Not peaceful one
Ron
bit.
McLaughlin. This was Sunday, downtown Denver, an annual rally, not a counter demonstration, not a let's provide something different from the protests that we've seen. This is an annual event. That's the lead organizer. This was the 6th time downtown, and apparently on the other side there was a lot more blood than what you're seeing on the right side of his forehead. I want to go here, if Mr. Matusz, producer extraordinaire, can please drop in Cut 8. Because this is CBS 4, local Denver affiliate for CBS, doing their story on the chaos that took place on Sunday.
The anti-police protesters stormed into this pro-police rally, intent on disruption. As the protesters attempted to take over the stage, they were met with fierce resistance. The police backers weren't giving up their annual tribute without a fight. As a man on a motorcycle tried to leave, more fights broke out. Ron McLaughlin is the founder of this pro-police rally.
Some guy hit me with, I thought a skateboard, maybe it was something else, across the face, and another guy came down on top of me with something.
Police are known as the Thin Blue Line. Officers here attempted to create a thicker barrier between the opposing groups. It didn't always work out as hoped.
We don't appreciate the police because they behave in a racist manner. They disproportionate police communities of color.
If there was any chance for a civil discussion, that hope was quickly lost. Some were bloodied in the melee, some taken into custody. At one point, police unleashed pepper balls and smoke. Demonstrators came to the aid of each other to assist in clearing their eyes.
There's nothing peaceful about these people. They yell, they scream, they get in your face. The amount of fights that they start is ridiculous.
The protesters from the Party for Socialism and Liberation moved out of the amphitheater, taunting police SWAT units as they said goodbye. The scorecard for today: one person arrested, 2 pepper balls fired, and one good example of just how far apart people are in this country these days. Live in Denver, Rick Sellinger, covering Colorado First.
CBS 4 News report on Sunday. Pretty good news report there from Rick Siegel. You saw what happened there. These were not peaceful demonstrators. They were not people trying to do, as one local news anchor named Kyle Clark put it, opposing speech. That was not opposing speech. You could see what's going on as they're trying to not just disrupt, but to engage in violence, and they were met with a response from the attendees who wanted to defend other attendees. I've heard of numerous accounts of men protecting women who were being assailed. Michelle Malkin, noted conservative commentator, was there, and one woman took out a baton and opened up a baton that was concealed. One of these radical thugs. President Trump, this week, in Cut 10, had some remarks on what he's doing to try to bring under control this chaos we are seeing in America's cities, of which Denver is just one emblematic situation.
We have more federal law enforcement, that I can tell you. In Portland, they've done a fantastic job. They've been there 3 days, and they really have done a fantastic job in a very short period of time. No problem. They grab them, a lot of people in jail. They're leaders. These are anarchists. These are not protesters. The police are afraid to do anything. Well, I'm going to do something, that I can tell you, because we're not going to let New York and Chicago and Philadelphia and Detroit and Baltimore and all of these, Oakland is a mess. We're not going to let this happen in our country. All run by liberal Democrats.
Quite frankly, President Trump is absolutely right. These are not peaceful people. Those that are engaging in this rioting behavior are not peaceful. There are a lot of peaceful protesters. We've been explaining that on this program time and time again. There are a lot of peaceful Black Lives Matter advocates who will show up at these rallies and protests and demonstrate without any desire to loot, to sow chaos, or anything. Now, the Denver Police Department, I asked them Sunday night for a statement. It took them until yesterday afternoon to finally provide me with a statement. On Monday, they replied in the morning saying, we're still assessing. And on Tuesday, when I followed up, they said, we're still working on a statement. We will get it to you. Now, I asked a few questions. I won't share the questions here now, but they were not answered. I want to put up what the police department, if we could drop in this picture, please, Nathan Matouche. what the police department said in response and then play a clip or two from an interview that the police chief did on Monday, even though they couldn't get me a statement until Tuesday afternoon. What the police chief said on Monday in an interview on 710 KNUS radio in Denver with my colleague there, Stephen Tubbs. Let's put up the statement now. Police department responding to yours truly saying on Sunday, July 19th, 2020, an event in Civic Center Park that was open to the public was disrupted by protesters. Some encounters among these large groups of people escalated to incidents of violence, and the Denver Police Department was forced to intervene using pepper spray /fogger and pepper balls to help disperse the crowd. By the way, if you could please, Nathan Matoush, pull up in the preview panel there and get ready where they show the pepper spray from that CBS 4 news report and when they're putting stuff in the protesters, so-called protesters' eyes, because I want to make a point about that. To be clear, the Denver Police Department respects everyone's rights to lawfully assemble, demonstrate, and make their voices heard regardless of their viewpoints on issues. And yet they allowed this disruption to take place without providing any sort of security. But I digress. Continuing with the statement. In the days leading up to the event in support of law enforcement, the Denver Police Department expressed concerns about safety to the event organizers. The organizers elected to move forward with the event in an open public space and provide security as required by the city's permitting process. As a precaution, and separate from the organizers' private security plan, the Denver Police Department had officers on hand to monitor the event, and officers began intervening in response to illegal activities, including assaults /fighting. You saw some of those fights before. There were not instances, very few and far between, of police actually intervening in fights that had broken out. When protesters entered the open park area where the public event was being held, they did not commit a crime. Officers arrested one person for assault and are continuing to investigate other reported crimes such as assault and theft. The department encourages anyone with information /video that could help to identify suspects or documents a crime to contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers. It gives the phone number. The Denver Police Department is listening to community concerns and feedback. Oh, they've gotten feedback on the issue of policing in Denver as we seek to create policies and operate in a manner that best reflects the community's needs. The department simply asks that those who wish to express themselves on this issue and others do so in a safe and legal manner. Which was not in any way, shape, or form done. One arrest with all the violence that was going on. Also, let's show that pepper spray video because I want you to notice something. This was essentially after people had gone. After the protest or the gathering, the 6th annual Law Enforcement Appreciation Day had been broken up. That is when these pepper balls were fired, just 2 or 3. Seriously? In action. Let's go here to cut 5 real quick. This is Chief Pazin of the Denver Police Department. See, here's the problem. When we don't have police that are allowed to do their job, because that is what did not happen here. They weren't allowed to do their job because of orders from the police chief. When that happens, you have violence that breaks out and these people get emboldened and act more brazen. Listen to how he put this.
Again, the violence that we saw yesterday, the disruption that we saw yesterday is very disappointing. It's not what a civil society should be, should look like. We should be able to engage in meaningful dialogue and conversation, even if we have opposing views. The actions that took place are very disappointing. However, we need to continue to work together so that way we can keep any types of future events safe, and that is done through planning and preparation.
Very disappointing. Nathan Matoush, producer extraordinaire, please show a little bit more of the fight footage that was almost not at all broken up by police that were told to stand down, not to intervene. There were a little bit of intervening by police, but a heck of a lot of not intervening by police. When we have police chiefs across the country, my friends, who are refusing to enforce the law, to bring about some sort of peace in what was a peaceful demonstration. You saw the video. A band was playing music. I was part of that band at Civic Center Park in downtown Denver, Colorado, right by the state capitol. And we couldn't even get through 1 1/3 songs. And we couldn't have any speeches given. This is why President Trump is taking the sort of action that he's doing. It is because local police chiefs, probably at the direction of the local politicos in those cities, are not allowing their officers to do their jobs. The statement I got from Denver's police department, as well as that interview, the full interview, we just heard a snippet of it on my colleague on 710K and US Stephen Tubbs show on Monday afternoon, those were very pitiful, weak statements. And this kind of thing is what we're seeing across the country, Seattle and Portland. This is just a small instance in Denver, Colorado, but it is a brazen one where they actually were able to get away with disrupting an event. Now, one quick thing before we go to our break. We're overdue. The police chief repeatedly, Chief Payson, repeatedly had said on Stephen Tubbs' show and elsewhere that it was essentially the rally organizers' fault for not having some sort of adequate security plan. When they did exactly what they do normally, the organizers, and the police could have done what Aurora, Colorado, where I live, did. The police could have separated the two sides, as Aurora did at an ICE demonstration defending ICE last September. You can put the police chief up on the screen so folks can see what it looks like. This is Denver Police Chief Paul Payson, who declined to allow his officers to intervene for the most part on Sunday. One arrest? Very disappointed, he says. This is why President Trump says he needs to take action. Because police chiefs are not providing a space even for the First Amendment to be exercised by peaceful demonstrators at an event that has been going on for years now. I'm Jimmy Sengenberger. We're going to take a quick break, overdue. When we come back, Josh Siegel, reporter at the Washington Examiner, will join us to talk about Joe Biden, unions, and what's going on with climate change. Very fascinating report. Stay tuned.
Hi, Tom. Gee, you look terrible.
I feel terrible. Achy, fevery, nauseous.
Ooh, that's too bad. You know, you ought to...
Chills, stuffiness, bloating.
Yeah, you know...
Scratchy, gassy, drippy.
I know! Say, Tom, you should try Wearaflu.
Wearaflu?
Wearaflu is the only medication that actually takes your flu symptoms and hides them at various places inside your body so that by the time your body finds them all, your flu is gone. In the meantime, you're back to work.
You were right, Ed. Wearaflu lets me ignore my flu symptoms and gets me back to work. Thanks.
Yeah, and thanks for coming in and infecting the rest of the office.
Come out wherever you are with Wearaflu. Take as directed.
That was a
and more access.
breaking at this hour.
That's it. Politics are crazy. The culture is in flux. That's why we work hard to help you keep up.
more politics, more culture, and more access.
We focus on the biggest stories of the day with some of the biggest names in politics and punditry.
Go to our website, WashingtonExaminer.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Breaking at this hour, Jimmy Sengenberger is currently at the crossroads of politics and economics.
Are you all right with being a shark maverick? Was it okay to team up with you?
I'm good, man. We're a part. It's a partnership. We're like this, Jimmy. I got you.
I got Jimmy at the crossroads, making sense out of nonsense.
And folks, let's get you back to your host of the Crossroads, Mr. Sang Style, Jimmy Sengenberger.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back to Jimmy at the Crossroads. I'm Jimmy Sengenberger, your host for the program. Once again, bringing you engaging, intelligent talk, Sang style, in partnership with the Washington Examiner. Nathan Matouche, producer extraordinaire, once again producing today here on the program. And I do want to encourage you, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Jimmy at the Crossroads YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jimmy at the Crossroads. Follow me on Twitter at Sang Center, Sang with an E, not an A, Center on Twitter. And also like the Facebook page, Jimmy Sengenberger Media Personality, facebook.com/Jimmy Sengenberger Pro. And of course, be sure to like, subscribe, follow all those good things for our friends and partners at the Washington Examiner on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and of course at WashingtonExaminer.com. Speaking of the Washington Examiner, it is Washington Examiner Wednesday. And here on Jimmy at the Crossroads with yours truly, Jimmy Sengenberger, we like to spend our Wednesday guest segment talking with someone at the Examiner about some of the big stories of the day. And there is a fascinating report that came out last week in the Examiner by Josh Siegel, who joins us now, on Joe Biden and his liberal climate policies actually instilling fear in a lot of unions, a traditional Democratic constituency. Washington Examiner's energy and environment reporter Josh Siegel joins us now here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it as well. This really was a great and extensive report. You interviewed a variety of union officials over a series of weeks in order to get a good sense for how they're feeling, especially about the increasingly radicalized views, many would argue, myself included, of Joe Biden when it comes to climate change issues. Give us sort of the overarching premise of your report, Josh.
Yeah, so I think Joe Biden, he presents a kind of a conflict for some of these, blue collar union voters in states like Pennsylvania, where, everyone I interviewed in this story, again, they represent building trades. So guys who do construction on pipelines or at a manufacturing plant, for example. These guys, they're all Democrats, and they all, said to a man that they naturally kind of like Joe Biden before, just based on his history. But they are kind of concerned about his climate policies, which, would try to transition the economy off fossil fuels over time. He doesn't kind of explicitly say no more fossil fuels, but he has goals such as achieving, zero carbon electricity entirely by 2035. That would make it very difficult for fossil fuels to have a place, in 15 years, beyond a very small role. So, yeah, I mean, I ended up speaking with six or so union leaders, different unions across Western Pennsylvania and Southeastern Pennsylvania. These are areas that went to President Trump in 2016, kind of very much based on the promises he made around reviving coal and steel industries that were very important to these areas. And these guys who I spoke with, I'd say, they're open-minded, Biden, but they're definitely concerned about what he's putting out on climate. And they're saying that they're going to, most of these guys are going to vote first with who they think is going to be better for their jobs of their members. And that's President Trump, even though they definitely have concerns about Trump more broadly and around these are unions and they more align with Democrats naturally. So that concern is still there. But yeah, as it stands right now, I'd say they are, majority are likely to go Trump because of what we're seeing with his climate policies.
Those particularly in these industries that are either directly tied to energy production, so natural gas, oil in particular, and those industries that maybe are connected to this energy producing sector.
Yeah, exactly. These are it's important, I think, to differentiate. There are a lot of unions who actually like Biden's climate plans.
Right.
We've seen the United Auto Workers endorse it. We've seen a union of utilities endorse his plan. So these are the unions we're talking about are what they call the building trades. These are guys who build pipelines. They get into a natural gas plant and help install the piping, oil refineries. These are oil and gas historically been very unionized. They're high paying. The membership in these unions are definitely fossil fuel prevalent. Whereas other unions who might not have that same exposure, which might explain why they're more open-minded to what Biden is saying. Because what's interesting is Biden is actually positioning his climate plans as potentially beneficial to unions, because he sees an opportunity in building, electric vehicles, building windmills, a new energy economy, as he calls it. And he kind of seems to think that you can transition a lot of these workers to building those kind of things. But what's challenging when you talk to these unions, renewable jobs, wind, solar jobs, these aren't generally as unionized as fossil fuels. The skills aren't exactly, equatable. So there is a concern around transition. There's been these promises before, and there's kind of skepticism on if they'll be fulfilled.
Once again, Josh Siegel is our guest here on Jimmy at the Crossroads, Washington Examiner's energy and environment reporter. One thing, I want to read a line. This is early on in your report. Again, the article available at WashingtonExaminer.com is entitled Biden's Liberal Climate Policies Feared by Unions in Pennsylvania. It is a gentleman named Jim Cassidy, and I'd love for you to tell us about him. But Joe Biden is really one of us. I always loved the man. He scares me now. Is he embracing the new Green Deal or whatever they are calling it? He needs to get some stuff straight. Now, Mr. Cassidy says he's going to vote for Joe Biden, but his fears are something that seem to be shared by a heck of a lot of union members. And again, unions are a traditionally Democratic constituency.
Yeah, I thought Jim was really appropriate to kind of lead this story with, because I just thought he represented the heart of this conflict. This is a guy who represents a union, outside Pittsburgh. He has a photo in his office of him and Joe Biden just from 2 years ago when, Biden was visiting the area to campaign for Connor Lamb, the U.S. House member, a Democrat, centrist Democrat from that area. So, but at the same time, as you said, that quote was very strong. He's concerned about where Biden is going on climate, although what you hear from some of these guys is there is somewhat of a that maybe Biden, they kind of understand the politics, that he kind of has to, he's getting a lot of pressure from the base of his party, from trying to inspire enthusiasm from young people in the Democratic Party who have made climate change a priority. So he's trying to kind of do a few things here, but without offending these unions, and he's kind of tried to make a distinction from a Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren by saying he's not going to ban fracking, which is the practice that helped unleash the oil and gas boom in the U.S. over the last decade. So yeah, I think that this representative of, if he's kind of he's definitely very concerned, but he again is not he says he's going to ultimately vote for Biden. We'll see if he lives up to that, but again, giving open-mindedness to what his background is and what the alternative is as far as what it means, what Trump means to unions more broadly.
Yeah, Josh, I think that one of the big things that is concerning a lot of these folks is the involvement of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one example. Of course, she is the lead advocate of the Green New Deal. She has been involved in shaping Biden's climate policy now. And I think that's something that really, that imagery and knowing what she stands for and having her now heavily involved in shaping Biden's climate policy helps to underscore why they would even feel this way in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. I think as one of the union guys made the point at the end, I thought it was just kind of really fitting and descriptive of how our politics work. But most people aren't tuned into the day in, day out. They're not going to read Joe Biden's detailed climate plan that he put out last week, but they are going to see images of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders. These are very liberal members who were on a shared policy task force with Biden when Biden tried to, show that he's reaching out to all types of constituencies within the party, and they're kind of hanging on to that, as that headline. He's worked with AOC and Bernie to say that he's going too liberal on climate. And also looking at, I mentioned a debate mistake that Biden made where he kind of suggested he might ban fracking in the spur of the moment. His campaign has tried to back away from that. He's subsequent interviews, Biden has said, no, I don't want to ban fracking. That was so, but people, hang on to those, need to understand, kind of quick sound bites, photos, imagery. So Biden's going to have to overcome those perceptions that exist.
Well, one thing I think that frustrates a lot of oil and gas workers who make up these unions in the industry is that they know that natural gas has been driving the reductions in carbon dioxide emissions in the United States of America in recent years. And they look at it and say, this is actually your transitionary fuel source, your transitionary energy source. If you want to be moving away from the traditional fossil fuel model, you can't just do that in a matter of, a couple of years. You really need to be amping up this natural gas production, this natural gas revolution that we've seen that has really led a reduction in carbon dioxide emissions, which I think helps to get to some of the frustrations.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, these unions officials argue that, look, natural gas, especially in a state like Pennsylvania, it has been the biggest contributor to emissions reductions over the last decade. Renewables have played a part as well, but natural gas has been majority reason. And it's also a very, if you look at our, plastics that we use, plastics we're increasing our use of plastics during this pandemic. It's helped with PPE, of course, for healthcare workers. It's a big component there. So, and actually byproducts of natural gas are, a key component of plastics. So, and there's a big plastics manufacturing facility that's being built in the area that's going to be counted on for a lot of jobs. Again, Biden has not said, I don't think anyone expects him to block a plant like this or to totally say we can't have any natural gas. But again, if the perception is he's moving in a direction that's more antagonistic towards fossil fuels, then of course we've seen with the current president, and that he's someone who's going to really try to put the foot of the government on, right. To really push for renewables as a competitor to gas. They're going to see that as a threat, of course.
Just final quick question, Josh Siegel, before we let you go. How significant could this be in terms of Trump versus Biden, especially if these concerns among many rank and file union workers in these particular industries expand?
Yeah, I think, again, the pandemic, of course, throws everything out the window a little bit. Biden does look very good in the polls right now. In Pennsylvania, of course, it's early. But I spoke with Ryan Costello. He's a former House member from a suburban district outside Philly, a Republican. And he said that these building unions voters are the new swing voter in Pennsylvania over suburban women who look like they might be Biden. I think it's going to be very important. Again, assuming maybe in 4 months people have the pandemic less on their mind and it's less a referendum in that way. If this was a traditional election, I think for sure this is, the building trades have a lot of influence. Just in their, that conflict that exists between, what Democrats want on climate and their traditional ties to unions.
Sure. Josh Siegel, energy and environment reporter at the Washington Examiner. Thanks so much for joining us on this Washington Examiner Wednesday. Excellent reporting.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking an interest in the story.
Absolutely. Thank you. Once again, Josh Siegel joining us from the Washington Examiner. Check out his report, Biden's liberal climate policies feared by unions in Pennsylvania, at WashingtonExaminer.com. It really is just a great expose of these concerns. It's a lengthy story compared to a lot of the, you get a lot of different Examiner stories that can be a bit shorter. This one is longer because it includes a lot of different interviews, components. He really gets a good lay of the land, and I definitely think Joe Biden needs to be concerned about this constituency of oil and gas workers and not go so far. He already has, in my view. He has jumped the shark. He's too far on this issue of energy and environment, too far to the left. The question is, what perception in the next few months leading up to the election time, what perception will voters have in those sectors who work in oil and gas and related industries? What perception will they have in the coming months of Joe Biden on that issue versus Donald Trump, who's been very strong on energy issues? And let's put up real quick just the little bit of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because I think one of the important things to keep in mind about this Democrat environment that we're seeing right now is the increased radicalism on the left when it comes to environmental policy and social policy. I mean, we see these Democratic mayors, we were talking earlier in the show, we see these Democratic mayors who are feckless and weak and unwilling to have their police chiefs act appropriately to defend peaceful gatherings, to defend businesses, to defend communities. That is radicalism on the left, infiltrating local officials as well. This is what Biden has to deal with. It's not just on energy and the environment, it's the whole range of radicalism that has been getting into the Democratic Party. That much is abundantly clear. Well, that is it for us today here on Jimmy at the Crossroads. We will be back with more this week. Stay tuned tomorrow on Thursday. But that is it for today. My thanks to you for watching and participating. Please do tweet at me 24/7, 365 at Sang Center. That's Sang with an E, not an A, Center on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out JimmyAtTheCrossroads.com. And you can shop there and join the Crossroads Club membership program. My thanks to producer Nathan Matoush, to Washington Examiner reporter Josh Siegel, to our partners at the Washington Examiner as well. Thanks so much. Stay well, stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless America.